What's up, everybody, and welcome to the No BS Real Estate Show, a podcast that gives you an inside look on how to make smart financial decisions while adding value to your life. I'm Matty Miller with ERA Real Estate, alongside my co-host and real estate investor extraordinaire, Ryan Robbins. Whether you're a longtime investor or a first-time buyer, join us as we dig through the everyday bullshit of real estate. And we are live with the No BS Real Estate Podcast. Ryan Robbins, what's going on, man?
Matt, how are you?
I'm good, man. Doing some getting over my Thanksgiving feast. Probably gonna lose a few lbs at this point, considering the fact that I had leftovers for lunch again today.
I did too.
Yeah,
they're good. They get better as the time goes on,
as they always do. Yeah, yes. No doubt. So, you had a good Thanksgiving, I assume.
It was good. It was low key. Stay home. Didn't travel this year, so.
I didn't travel. We just stayed home. Did Thanksgiving over at the parents' house, and I smoked the turkey on the grill, and it was fantastic. It was good.
I don't know if I've done smoked turkey before or had it.
Oh, dude, it was super good, man.
Was
it's all about that wood pellet grill these days.
Next year, I'm at your place.
I woke up at like 1:30 in the morning, and not gonna lie, I had a beer, and then put the grill on, or put the bird on the grill and let it sit for like 9.5, 10 hours. Yeah. So no, it was delicious. So
sounds delicious.
It was delish. So we're not here to talk about turkey, but we are here to talk about who and how do you find a quality renter for your rental properties.
Yeah, that's something we're all gonna need to know at some point, right?
Absolutely. Well, this is my alley. I'm the property manager, so I'll kind of be the guru on finding this. And there's a bunch of different ways to do it, and a lot of people have different philosophies. We can kind of get into what some of the new school or newer school property managers do, what some of your smaller ones like myself do to try to find. And it's all based on a business model too. So I mean, we'll get into that, but. Yeah, I'll let you take the lead as far as what you want to know.
Well, I'm going to approach it from a brand new investor. So I want to get into the market.
You know nothing.
I know nothing. So I want to come into the market. Maybe I'm local. Maybe I'm somewhere else around the country. I'm looking for somebody with some local knowledge in property management, somebody to kind of guide me through exactly what I'm going to be looking at in regards to paying out. What kind of tenant am I going to have in there? Is my property in a good area? Is that all things that, as a property manager, you can kind of discuss and walk me through? If I send you a house and say, hey, this is what I'm looking at, can you come back to me and say, yes, it's a good area. Yes, this is what your rents can be. This is how we're going to get somebody in there. And this is, the services we'd provide.
Absolutely. So you go through. The first thing you want to go through is obviously if you're a new investor and you're going to figure out area. I mean, the area is going to depend on the type of tenants you're going to get. So we have A class, B class, C class, D class neighborhoods. So let's
for I guess just on a keeping all things level here. Let's say I just purchased a property. We're in a B class area, okay. And I'm going to approach you on a call and say, Matt, read your Google reviews. You come highly recommended.
Perfect.
Give you 123 Main Street. What can I expect for rent, and how are you going to determine what, my rental costs can be on that?
So just for the sake of it, we'll keep it simple. So a B-class neighborhood in Jacksonville, Florida, and some people, depending on the market you're at, might be laughing at the amount of money it takes to live in this city. It's not like we're talking about rural Iowa, but at the same time, compared to New York, Chicago, stuff like that. A B-class neighborhood typically is going to be something I would describe as where a lot of your people live, where probably even you and I live. And that's your average property. It's where, 70% of your working class is going to live. It's not your bars on doors neighborhood. It's not your, shot, some guy just got shot down the street. It's your older subdivisions, maybe inside of a normal big city that are older, or it might even be, a place like Riverside for us in Jacksonville. Or and then you get into your A neighborhoods, just to kind of quickly explain the difference. Your A neighborhoods would be Ponte Vedra, Florida. That'd be most of your A neighborhoods where probably 10% of the population can actually live. And then you have your C class, which is where the probably lower middle class, I would say B class is upper middle class, C class is lower middle class. And then you have your D class, which I would refer to as, quite honestly, a place that where some people do invest in. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of, C class to lower to upper D class investors out there that like Section 8 stuff. They love to be in those areas that they can pick up a house for $24,000 and slap 10 grand on it and get a payment for $750 a month on a HUD voucher. There are those people too. So, so B class neighborhood, Jacksonville, Florida. Let's say you're going to be anywhere from $1,300 to $1,500 depending on the size of the home, but an average 3.2, 1,500 square foot. You're looking at probably $1,300, $1,400 somewhere in there. Maybe depending on the neighborhood, it could be a little higher than that, but that's about your average where you're going to be. So that's the kind of rent you're going to get. We charge $100 per month for management, so pretty simple. There's some other fees that go in there as far as a leasing fee, renewal fees, and maintenance fees and stuff like that go into it, but nothing overly simple. But $100 is your base cost per month. But as far as finding a tenant, and we can kind of, that's the one that everybody always asks me. Well, how do you find a tenant? Well, quite frankly, it's pretty multi-layered when you start about how do you find a tenant. Well, the first thing is let's get the house listed. So one thing that I do is we do like to take professional photos of almost every property, and I say almost everybody because some people just they don't want to be in that package. So we have different packages and levels of property management services that we offer. So some don't come with it, others do. So I'd like to do professional photos of them, and that's the first impression. So people that go out and they slap up something on an iPhone, and I'll be honest with you, some of the iPhone stuff today, iPhone Galaxy pictures, they look really good. So I can't. There's some of it I just go, oh, wow, that looks really good. But you're typically not going to be able to get the true wide angle, clarity that you're going to be able to get with a professional photographer. And I pay our photographer $100. I mean, it's really pretty cheap. It's definitely worth the value to us as far as getting better tenants, because that's the first thing they see.
Now, are you covering that, or am I going to cover that as well? Does that come out of, I guess, the initial leasing fee?
Yep. So I cover that. Yeah. So I cover that. That's part of our package. Okay. If you're doing full property management, if you're just doing tenant placement, or if you're doing the lower end property management services, we're not gonna do that. That's kind of in the premium package for the most part. That's full property management. All the fees are incurred. You're paying for everything, and basically you're handing the property over to me and saying, I want a check. That's what, which is what some investors are like, oh, that sounds great. I don't have to deal with anything. Yeah. Okay, great. You have to make a decision maybe once a year. And that's about it. So so we do professional pictures for sure. I think that goes a long way.
Now, if I have a tenant in place, but they're moving out in 30 days, but I want to start marketing it prior, what do you recommend there? Would you say, let's wait, get them out, clean it up, and do some photos and try to turn it quickly? Or do you do any marketing ahead of time if I want to try to keep my vacancy to a minimum?
This is an often debated topic in property management. A lot of people think, well, man, I want to have a tenant in there, right as soon as that next one, if they move out on December 1st, I want somebody in there on December 2nd. Yep. Well, there's a lot more moving parts that go into that as far as doing a move out inspection. If there is things wrong, then really just going in and doing that quickly. Because what happens if a tenant moves out and you don't know that the bathtub hasn't drained for X amount of days? You don't even know how many days it hasn't worked, or there's multiple light fixtures that are jacked up. You need to get an electrician out there. There's things that you're just not going to know until you really get in there and really deep, dig deep to find them. You're not going to know. So my recommendation is, you're an investor, so if you know your numbers right, you are also accounting for vacancy, right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. So that being said, is from a property investment standpoint, get the tenant out of there. Let's get it cleaned up. In order to get it cleaned up, because you're not going to be able to repaint, you're not going to be able to put new carpet in. if you're just going right into the next tenant. It's just impossible. You're not going to be able to do it. So there's not enough time. There's not enough. You don't have finding a contractor to go in there. Hey, I need it in 2 days, and even if you plan it and schedule it, something's going to happen. Then you're going to have a pissed off tenant that's moving in, and then they're going to be mad because it's not done, and they're going to ask for reparations. Okay, on the new lease. So it's better off to get them out, get it cleaned up, get everything the way you want it. And in that aspect, they can see the property completely cleaned up. They know that you're a responsible landlord, and you're probably going to get more for your bang because, hey, I can ask for a premium if my property's cleaned up completely.
Yeah.
You can't do that when there's still a tenant in there. Oh, hey, we'll get everything cleaned up. Yeah, okay, whatever. All right, get it cleaned up, make it look nice, get it professionally cleaned, replace what you need to replace, and do that. Now, there are some people that, they don't want any vacancy, which I understand. A vacancy sucks because you're not going to get paid. But
Yeah.
you're always going to have to do upgrades.
Okay, so we're on the market. We're cleaned. The old tenants out, new tenants in, or hey, I just purchased the property. I bought it vacant.
Yep.
We're getting applications in. What are you looking at screening wise to make sure that we're not going to be dealing with any evictions, trying to cover us on the front end?
So I'm a little old school in this. This is there's some new school philosophies in this, given with our recent technology that's going on out there. So we've all heard about digital lock boxes nowadays in the rental market, and especially the property management world, to where some companies will pay for it's kind of a super box on steroids, to be honest with you, is what it is. It's an iBox on steroids, to where a tenant will call into the property management office. Tenant will say, hey, I want to see this house. Well, great. Hey, it's a self-showing. You can do it right now if you're in front. Okay, are you in front of the house? Yes, I'm in front of the house. Okay, tenant goes, all right. They plug in, they give a credit card or driver's license number. Most of them are credit cards now. They charge you $1. Okay, they charge you $1 to go look at it, or some even just hold it. They get the driver's license number, they get the name, they get and a credit card. So what happens is, tenant goes in there. They look at the house. They have a coded lockbox that'll give them a temporary code for like 45 minutes. They'll go in there and view it themselves. Okay. As convenient as that can be, me personally and most of my clients would much rather me meet those people in person to talk to them. Because if you just look at paper and you're just evaluating on paper and you're not meeting those people, there may be something off about them. Do they show up on time for an appointment? Are they responsible? Do they present themselves well? You don't know what you're getting when you're just looking at a name. I know a company here in town that literally doesn't meet their clients before they move in. They may never meet them.
Wow.
They may never meet. I said clients. They may never meet their tenants before they move in. Okay, they're gonna do a self showing. They're gonna do all the application process online. Okay, once that's done, they're gonna come to the office the day of moving. And they're going to go pick up a key from the office, from the front office lady. Okay, they never meet the property manager. They don't know who actually manages the property other than a name and an email or maybe a phone number. All right, and they move into the property. The inspection's already done for them. They have to do one themselves, and we go on. Now, that being said, is the people that own those properties are large investment firms. Okay, so they're a numbers game.
Yeah.
Okay, so they don't care if they have the $4,000 or $5,000 to be able to do an eviction and clean the property up. My clients typically don't. My clients are investors who have 1, 2, 3, or 5 properties. They're not huge investors or a hedge fund from China or whatever it is that are investing in local real estate in Jacksonville, Florida. That's not my client, so I have to offer a different kind of service from that aspect. So me personally, the first thing that I do is I get typically an online inquiry from Zillow, Trulia, whatever, because that's what everybody goes to look at for rentals. We do put them up on our personal websites, our REOA websites, all that fun stuff. But we'll get one, and I actually have a sheet that I'll send back to them right as soon as I get their information. So I'll send them back basically a whole list of qualifications. I ask my clients, and I just started doing this probably about 2 years ago. Not 2 years ago. Probably 2 years ago. I'll ask my tenants to fill out an application prior to even seeing the house. One reason I do this is we have a lot of tire kickers in our market. They come, they call, they want to look at the house, oh, it'll work, and come to find out I drove halfway across town to see 2 tenants that aren't even approved, or they have 480 credit. And you don't know that unless you ask those questions. They can lie to you. They can do this. Well, hey, what if they're going to give me their social and they're going to give me their driver's license information and they're going to tell me where they work, how much they make. They're going to give me all the information. They're probably pretty serious about getting in that home. So I do require that up front. A lot of people ask me why, which is one reason why I have a video in my email explaining why we do that. Another reason why we do it, safety. This is 2018. We've heard a lot of crazy shit going on in the world.
Oh yeah.
Okay. I show up to a random property. Yeah, exactly. You never know who the heck's going to be there when you show up at 6 o'clock on a Thursday afternoon. That might want to, just take your wallet and hold you at gunpoint. Not that I've ever had that happen, and don't necessarily worry about it. But that being said, is I can use that as, hey, I need your information before we go see it. If they're not willing to give me their information, it's fine. I don't take it personally. It's fine. I had a lady yell at me on the phone and say, that's ridiculous. I've never heard of that. And I'm like, okay, fine. Go in somewhere else. If you're going to get that upset about giving me your personal information, what are you going to do when you actually rent the property and have an issue? That's and I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. In the last year and a half, I have found really, really good tenants and had problems with maybe one of the last 50 that I've put in.
Now, am I, as an outside investor, involved in this process at all? Or once we sign our contracts, you do all of this
nope.
behind the scenes?
The only thing that I'll ask you to do is if there's something on a question that, maybe we're not renting it, it's a slow time. Hey, are you willing to take a tenant that may not fit all of our criteria, but they have the income, maybe it's a credit issue. Hey, we're looking for a minimum 600 credit score in our market. Obviously, every market's different, but we're looking for a minimum of 600 typically. Hey, if it's somebody that comes in at 589 or 585, things like that, we might make an exception in that situation, especially if we don't have anybody else that's applying for the property.
Okay.
So if it's moving slow, but then I'll ask the investor or the owner if they want to take that on.
Now, I'm going to challenge you a little bit. If I come to you and say, hey, look, I know you have a minimum credit acceptance of 600. I really want somebody that's got a credit score of 650. Do you, or hey, I want somebody that makes 5 times, what we're asking for rent, not 3.5 times or whatever the percentage may be. Is that something that you negotiate on, or are you pretty firm with what you've set up because it's working?
It depends on. Here's the deal. If somebody comes to me and they're in, let's say for this point, they're in maybe an upper B class neighborhood,
Yeah.
and they can demand that because of their home, then absolutely we can have higher standards. It for me it's always a sliding scale, and that's why the wording that I use is minimum preferred, okay, requirements. And what I mean by preferred is we'd like you to have that, but we'll probably, if you're close, we'll consider it and go from there. So I can always, it's a sliding scale. If I'm renting a house on the north side of Jacksonville and my minimum credit score is 600, there's a good chance that I may not find anybody.
Yeah.
Okay. I may be looking for 3 months, okay, before I get there. But if I'm renting a house down in, let's say, Mandarin, if I don't find somebody at 600, we got problems. Probably not going to, but two different areas, two different types of applicants. So you definitely got to adjust in what you're looking for.
Okay. Awesome. So we're on the market. We've got applications coming in. You're doing showings. Kind of as you're screening through people, you're looking at credit. You're looking at, I'm assuming, income verification. Do you look at employment? Anything else you do a hard check on?
So when somebody calls me and I talk to them on the phone for the first time, the three main things that I'm looking for are income being number one. That's the most important. You have to have significant enough. We look for 3.5 times the income on that. So 3.5 times, and that can be in a typical W-2 job. That can be in, if they're business for self, they got to show W-2s for 2 years. We can take those kind of incomes. We can also take child support. We can take Social Security. We can do that, but everything has to be proven on paper before any of it matters. So that being said, so what I say, income, credit, obviously we talked about that. And lastly is, your background, obviously. So any evictions or felonies, evictions or felonies in the last 10 years is an automatic stopper for me. In certain situations, I've made exceptions on felonies. If a kid or a young person let's say a young person in their 18, 19 years old got hit for something and it wasn't, trafficking, drugs, or, attempted murder or something like that, maybe we would make an exception on situations like that on lower end properties. Typically not on your higher end properties.
Okay.
We ever have to make that exception. So
Now,
um,
as far as, I'm sure like anything else, the more experience someone has, if they've been renting for 10 years with a perfect rental history, fantastic. What if they're 18 and just moving out, or they're 65, and they've owned a house their whole life and now they're, just want to rent for a bit as they travel or whatever else they're doing?
Sure, and I've had both situations. So I've had young kids that have come out and they, spent a year in college or they were doing whatever, and they just said, "Hey, I got my girlfriend knocked up. Now I got to buy a house because I'm gonna have a kid, and I don't have money to buy a house, but I need to rent a place, and I don't want to be in this crappy apartment complex that I've been living in, for the last year with a bunch of college kids around." So I will take some exceptions on that, and typically young people have good credit because they haven't had the ability to screw it
Haven't
up.
had time to mess it up. Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, you get somebody who's 19 or 20 years old, and they'll pull it up and be like 780 credit. Okay, well, and they've only had one credit instrument on their report the entire time, so their credit's probably fine. In the older situation, I have a couple homes down in St. Augustine area that are more retirement-esque communities. And I'll have a lot of people who I haven't rented a home in years, but they don't want to buy a home. They just got burned by the 2008 crash, and they're like, "Hey, I just want to rent a place." Well, I don't have any rental history. Well, if you owned your home and sold it, I can look it up pretty quickly if that's true. So I can look that up very quickly and know that that is the case, and they're not lying. And yeah, so elderly people are actually a great. It's actually a growing market for us, to where you're buying retirement communities, because a lot of times now with people in that age, they have said, "Hey, I'm going to rent the rest of my life because it's a fixed income. I know exactly what I got to pay. I don't got to worry about my taxes changing. I don't got to worry about this. It's going to be $1,200 a month because that's my Social Security is. This is what I come in. This is what goes out." So that's actually a growing market. So I actually really enjoy properties in that area. And they're not going to beat the crap out of the house typically. So the elderly clients that I do have, in their late 60s, early 70s, have actually been awesome. So yeah, but absolutely.
Everybody's probably pressure point here, price. So we've got it on the market for $1,000, and someone comes and say it's been on for a month and we're not getting a lot of bites. What's your pressure? If we had a house for sale, we're going to probably try to talk the seller into a price adjustment. Do you ever do that on the rental side? Or if we're right off the rip getting some people that are saying, "Hey, I'd love to rent it, but I want to give you $950, not $1,000." How do you negotiate that? Any suggestions one way or the other?
So my goal is, I try to talk when I have a home that's vacant. Depending on the client, some clients I don't do this with because it's just not possible. When I have one on the market, I try to talk to them every week, and
Okay.
let them know, hey, we had no showings on it. We had one showing. We had 13, we had 12 people show up to an open house or whatever. My number one trick, by the way, just a little tidbit for investors and/or property managers, if anybody's listening to it. The best trick that I've ever come up with, and it's fucking gold. And excuse the language out there, but it's the No BS Real Estate Podcast. But it's literally gold. Is I will get, if I have a lot of people that are interested in the home, I will not show it all week, and I'll say, "Hey, meet me there on Saturday morning or Friday evening," and I'll open the house up for an hour, and I'll have 12 people tell me they're coming. I'll get 5 that show up, and I'll get 3 that want to rent it. But they all saw each other at the same time because 5 people just boom right on the house, like
Yeah.
bam. Okay, hey, they're all walking in. They all think it's, oh man. So the ones that get scared in that situation just kind of walk away and go away. I'm like, oh, that's gonna be because they know they got a credit issue more than likely. So it's the person typically that comes like, "Hey, I want it. I got good credit. What do I need to do?" All right, and the same. I mean, you may have 2 people that go, "Hey, I got good credit. I got no issues. I got to make the income," because they've already seen my criteria emailed to them,
Yeah.
so they know what
Makes
they're
sense.
getting
Yeah.
into. So they're the ones that are going to come, and you're just going to have 2 people bidding over it. And then at that point, I have options. So the owner has options. So hey, we got one person that come in. One person came in with a 720 credit, and they make $6,000 a month working out at Mayo Clinic, and he's a doctor or whatever, right? who knows what it is.
Yeah.
But again, it's often works itself out pretty well to be able to just kind of clump together, and it saves me a ton of time. So it creates excitement for them, and it creates competition, and it also saves me time. So that's a win-win.
Sweet.
And I still get to meet them in person too. That being the key.
There you go.
So
We've got a renter. Now, again, you're going to pick somebody. I'm not part of that at all, right?
nope.
As the
Nope.
investor. So you're picking the tenant. They're in.
And the reason why I do that, and I'll be perfectly honest with you, is the reason why I take that investor out of that situation is I don't want to put them at risk for any type of fair housing laws. Any type of fair housing law, if we can see names of people, we can see names, former address, and make conclusions about who they are, what they did. We can grab a name of somebody, and if I gave it to the investor and the investor Googled that person or Facebooked them, you can find their stuff.
Yeah.
I do that, but I don't want you to do that, okay? Because I don't want them to do it based on race, religion, all of our protected classes. I have to keep them out of that situation. I do it just in case, like I literally Facebooked a guy one time, and he was smoking weed in his Facebook picture. Honestly, he qualified, but somebody else was very similar.
Yeah.
But we took the other guy, so he disqualified himself. By the way, weed is still illegal in the state of Florida, just in case you guys know. So if it was Colorado, probably couldn't do it on that.
Yeah. Probably not.
So if it was Seattle, I think Seattle's got it's very pro tenant out there, so they can't do any of that crap either. So, but yeah, just situation, and that's it. It's normal.
Okay.
So everybody wants to know who's going to live in their house. But at the same time, I want to protect that investor from not making a mistake and saying you have to abide by fair housing laws.
I'm paying you for a reason, right? So
yeah, you're paying me to keep your ass out of court is what you're doing.
There you go.
And that's kind of the whole issue. So stay out of court and trust the guy who gets paid by a lot of other people to do the job. So
awesome. From there, am I getting any sort of reporting? Are you doing any sort of checkups? Once we get a tenant in place, all that stuff is out of the way. What's my communication like with you going forward?
Going forward, so about 3 or 4 months in on a new tenant, I'll do an inspection, just to kind of see how they're doing, making sure they're keeping up with the place. If I'm in the area, typically I'll do an outside swing by, just to make sure if I'm in that area, which I'm probably in that area, once a month, depending on where your property's at, if not more. Sometimes I go by it every day. But that being said, no. So I'll do a 3-month inspection. If that 3-month inspection looks pretty good, we'll go ahead and move on. And the next inspection I'll really do is at the renewal. That being said, we offer a service to change air filters for people every 90 days. So that will also serve kind of as a basic inspection. Then I do those personally. I go into houses. I change the AC filter real quick, and the air filter takes 5 seconds to change. Okay, really what I'm doing is I'm walking in there to make sure that everything's cleaned up. There's, you're not cooking meth in the kitchen and things like that. So that's really what I'm doing. And that costs $25 or $35 per every time we do it. So $140 a year to do it, and it gives you inspections. I don't take pictures of the inspection, but I know that if I see something that is off, I'm going to let that owner know. And say, hey, or if they're just, kind of an overly dirty person, like, hey, I might not give them an option to renew next year. You technically can't kick somebody out of a house because of cleanliness.
Yeah, makes sense.
That's not a violation of the lease. I've had owners try to say, hey, well, they're not clean. I can't do anything about that. I said,
can't make anybody vacuum. You can't make anybody do their laundry.
No, I can't.
As much as you wish you could.
They got clothes everywhere. I can't make them do shit. It's just there. I can't do that. That's literally against the law. So they have to actually, violate their lease or not pay their rent or, whatever the situation may be. So, but yeah, so we do inspections. We try to keep up on that pretty well because I believe that. And one thing is, I shouldn't have to do a lot of inspections. I put a lot of work in on the front end to really vet tenants. To make sure that they're good. I've even actually went to a previous tenant's house before, and I said, well, how do I know you're clean? So you gonna come see my house? It was like a block away, and it was an old little 2-bedroom house, and she needed a 3-bedroom. But I walked into this 2-bedroom house, and she unlocked the door, and here's her dog, and I see her dog, and I walked through, and I was like, yeah, she's really clean. Okay, So done that before. But yeah, so
you're looking out. You're looking out for us,
yeah,
and
that's
for
the job.
not much money.
Yeah,
$100.
no, 100
That's
bucks,
it.
100 bucks a month. I mean, I think it's crazy how people just property management. It's 100 bucks a month. And think about how much time. I mean, if you're another person and you have a full time job, how much is $100 a month worth to you? Because if you spend 3 hours a month dealing with it, let's just say four for the simple math, you spend 4 hours a month dealing with your property. You're only saying that your time is worth $25 an hour.
And
It's
that
not
doesn't
real
constitute.
good.
That's not gas. That's nothing else that you've.
That's nothing else. That's
Yeah,
nothing
phone
else. That's
calls, text
just time.
messages, anytime. Yeah.
That's just time. That's not organizing contractors. That's not doing that and calling people back and and it's crazy to me how people just want to save money. It's like, dude, just hire a property manager. They will do the job of getting it done, and they'll be in contact with you. Now you got to find the right one. Not all of them are good, and I'm not the best. I'm sure I'm not. I'm sure somebody's probably offers better than me,
We're all
but
learning.
there's also a lot of people that charge more than me.
Yeah.
But we do have our systems in place that work, and I have a lot of clients that are happy with my services. So we'll continue to grow and do what we do, and until that changes, I'll still be here. So I'll still have a job.
Fantastic.
So
Well, aside from that,
we're up against it here.
What's that?
I said we're up against it here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's
So
what's
we'll
our?
wrap this up, and you got one last final question for me?
No, I guess in regards to money, you're handling all the funds at the end of the year. You're just sending me a check at the end of the month for
Yeah. So we'll go
minus
through
the $100 and
yeah. Yep.
maintenance or whatever else we've agreed upon.
So I'll give you a 2 month example. So we move in a tenant. I got a tenant moving in here on December 1st at a property. I just had a conversation this morning with a new owner. He said, "All right, so how's all this going to work? Let me give you the breakdown." So I said, "Okay, all right. Well, hey, on December 1st, the new tenant's going to move in. He's going to pay his full first month's rent. Okay, so he's going to pay his full first month's rent. I think the rent's $1,400 at this particular place. I said we're going to take $700 of that. Okay, because that's our leasing fee." Which seems like a lot, but at the grand scheme of things, he didn't do any showings. He didn't do any background checks. I did all that stuff for him. That's what that pays for. We do all the marketing.
Real quick before you go too far, the deposit as well, like a security deposit. Do you hold that, or does that get sent to us?
We hold that, and we hold that in our escrow account, non-interest bearing escrow account. In Florida, you have to hold it in a Florida bank. So if you have out-of-town owners who, let's say, a guy lives in Georgia, but he has a rental property in Jacksonville, Florida. It is actually illegal for him to hold that account, even if he's self-managing the property. It's illegal for him to hold the security deposit in a Georgia bank. It has to be in a Florida institution.
Interesting.
So just a little tidbit there. So if you ever come across an out-of-town investor who's doing that, you need to say, hey, you need to put it in a Florida bank. Doesn't have to be with us. Doesn't have to be with it. Can be interest-bearing. It can be whatever, but it has to be in a Florida institution. And if it is interest bearing, technically he has to pay the tenant dividends, which is a pain in the ass. So don't put it in the
not worth a few extra pennies a year.
Not even close. Not even close. So if you actually want to dive that into it, that's a whole other podcast that we could get into. But yeah. So
okay. So you take half the first month's rent. So you got the 700.
Yep. So I'm going to send them on the 15th of that month. After that check clears, we have to wait 10 days. We often wait about 12 to 13. Typically, we pretty much. And I say pretty much because we have, maintenance issues and stuff like that. We're going to get that $700 for that owner draw for that month out on the 15th, via direct deposit. So we're just going to drop it in there on the 14th or 15th typically. And then we're going to go on. So we're going to go next month, and on January 1, that tenant is going to pay their rent again, clearly. They're going to pay their rent, but on January 5th, they had a plumbing issue. We had to send a plumber out there for $200. Okay. And had to send a plumber out there for $200. And we had a cracked toilet on the top of the bowl. Well, they replaced the top of the bowl, blah, blah, blah. It cost $200. Whatever the situation may be. Doesn't matter. Just as an example. So in that particular month, we would take the $200 out for the plumbing bill, and we would subtract our $100, okay, for the management. And in this situation, I would charge $29 for the work order. So every work order that we handle costs $29. So we made $129 in that month. The plumber paid $200, and you got the remainder of that, which simple math tells me $330.
There's
Let's
your
see, you got 1070, 1071 actually. Man, I did my math right.
good.
That's why I use calculators, guys. Use calculators. I use software. I'm not the smartest guy in the world here, but
Your teacher's grown up. You'll never have a calculator on you.
Yeah, exactly. Cell phones.
That's all you
Man.
have on you all the
That
time.
was the amazing part. Like 5th grade. Well, how are you going to do math? Well, we'll have a calculator. No, you won't. You won't have a calculator to carry around. Well, if I was in real estate, I promise you. Even if I was in real estate, I promise you that I would always have a calculator.
Have a calculator regardless. Yeah, even if it wasn't in your phone.
Even if it wasn't a cell phone. So anyway, but yeah, so simple math on that aspect, and then after that we go on. So, and if we get to let's fast forward 11 months and it's renewal time, we take 25% of the first month's rent. So instead of the 700, we would take the 350.
Okay.
For a renewal. We do an inspection before the renewal as well. So
I'm gonna hit you with a curveball here. Tenant doesn't renew. They move out. We got to find a new tenant. Is it still 25%, or does the 50% renewal fee kick in?
Depends. Tenant doesn't renew by their choice.
We're gonna say they're leaving voluntarily.
Voluntarily leaving. Okay. Voluntarily leaving. We will charge a 50%.
Okay.
Okay. If
it's something that you're choosing to do for whatever issues, you're gonna handle that and place them at 25%.
Correct. Yeah. So if it's something, it's a situation where we place the tenant and the tenant is, let's say they're haven't paid their rent on time, this, that, and the other, like, hey, it's best to just get rid of this person and reset. I will give you a break on the leasing fee going forward.
Okay.
Not something that's in our contract, but I'm a no bullshit kind of guy. So whatever I say is, kind of what I'm going to do. So
I can appreciate that.
Yeah. So no, I'm as honest as it gets, and there's a lot of shady ass property managers. So that's the way it goes, which sucks for our business because people look at every property manager as trying to make money and swindle them and this, that, and the other. And that's just simply not the case with everybody.
That's life, unfortunately. Stereotypes get grouped together regardless of the facts behind them. So
absolutely. So all right, my man. Well, hey, we're about at our stopping point here.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think that pretty much covers it anyway. So unless you have anything to add, do you do you dress up? Do you do some sort of entertainment? Do you get anything else out of our $100? That's it.
I don't do anything other than that.
We just get full service over our investment.
I'll shoot you a lot of bomb videos. Don't text me at 5 a.m. in the morning, and we're probably going to get along okay.
All right, that's easy.
Yeah. So, but other than that, yeah, that's pretty much it. So it's there's a lot. I would say a lot more that goes into it on the back end, but that's kind of the crash course. And if somebody were to ask me, hey, what's going to happen in this situation, that was pretty much what you got.
Cool. All right. Well, as we wrap this up, if I want to find out some more about you and your management group, where are we going? Where are you sending us?
Right behind you in the top right corner of your screen is 904rents.com. That's got all our information up there. This is the top right corner. I'm not like transposed, am I?
Top left.
Top left for you, top right. I'm looking at
it's my left. If I turn around, it's the right. So anyway, you want to look at it.
Yeah. So 904rents.com is our management website. That's ERA Heavener Realty. All the information's up there. If you have any questions, obviously feel free to give me a call, shoot me an email. All my information's on the website.
Fantastic. Awesome.
Right.
Well,
how do they get a hold of you if they want to buy an investment property?
Jack's Property Pros. That's again another side skirt to ERA Heavener. Anything you need, question-wise, find me there. Also, ryan.robbins@era.com. No BS Real Estate Podcast. You can find us there.
Appreciate y'all joining us, and
awesome.
We'll talk to you later.
Thanks, guys.
See you, man.
See ya.
Can you hear the outro?
I faintly hear it.
Probably.
Are we still recording? Like video
We're
wise?
still recording. We're still recording the video. Let's probably stop the video.